Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a hand-built cup out of soft slabs using paper patterns and tar paper. So the first thing I did when I designed that is I started with a bunch of drawings and just quick drawings, working on profiles basically. And after I decided which one I was most interested in, then I decide, do I want it to be 4 sides, 5 sides, 6 sides, and then start working on paper patterns. Design it first with paper, fold it up, and make any adjustments if it's too wide, if it needs more sides, fewer sides. So you can be pretty detailed in this. I use ruler. Other than that, just a quick drawing. So this is how this cup kind of started. So cut this out. I'm going to just fold this in half the best I can, and then cut it out. So this is what I have, and I'm going to try this one being 5-sided. So now I'm just going to transfer this to a piece of paper. This is just garbage bag. You can use anything as long as it's long enough. So what I'm going to do is, I guess I'll start in the middle. I'm going to do 5 sides. And I'm going to just trace it. Then pick it up and then just move it over so you share the seam, trace it again. Come on this other side and do 2 more. So this will be my pattern. I'll cut this out and tape it up and see what the proportions look like. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm just gonna fold it in the seams and then grab some tape and tape it up, and I'll be able to see the form in 3 dimensions. So. Paper bags work well for this because it's kind of stiff, and when I do make adjustments, you can pull this tape off pretty easily without destroying your pattern, and can reuse it or cut it smaller or whatnot. Alright, so I know that if I got clay out and constructed this, it would pretty much have these exact same proportions. So if I wanted it taller, I could make it again, add a little more here. If I wanted the bottom to be cut under a little bit more, I could adjust the angle down there too. But for this, I think it'll work. So next step is to transfer the the paper pattern over to tar paper. So I'll just separate this, tape off, and grab a piece of tar paper. Alright, so now I'm just going to simply lay it on here. Do the straight side so you don't have to cut that. And trace it. Right, I always save my paper patterns because the tar paper will wear out over time, and it's nice just to be able to pull this out again and make another make another paper or tar paper pattern. So I'm just gonna again fold these seams. Alright, now I'm ready for some clay. But a couple things to mention. When I fold this up, these flat planes are going to be a little bit curved because this is all connected. If I wanted them really sharp edged, I could simply just cut each piece individually. So I'd have 5 pieces like this, all separate. And what would happen when I got the clay out and put it together, then the edges would be much sharper. So it's totally dependent on what you're after. And another thing, I can use the same idea if I don't want flat sides and I want more curves, want it to be round. I can use a pattern like this, and depending on how tight this is, it'll adjust the angle of that, width, diameter, I guess. Another idea. Alright, so the second half of all this is actually getting the clay prepped and assembling a piece with your pattern. So cut slabs. I'm going to use these slab sticks, or pocket slab rollers, I've heard them called, and it's just 2 sticks with lines cut on a bandsaw that will create the width of your slab. So just gonna stretch a wire between these two, pull it really tight, step down one, then I've got slabs I can work with. You can toss these out a little bit, make them a little thinner, and start building them really, immediately with this technique. But I usually let them set up just a little bit. So I've got one that I rolled out, I don't know, maybe a half hour ago. Get this tar paper to actually attach here, I'm gonna have to get it wet. So you can dunk it in a bucket of water, you use a sponge, set it on here, then I'll use a rib to press it on so it actually sticks. If you don't use the water, it'll come off as soon as you try to fold it up. I'm going to cut it out. So I can cut the top edge straight, just a little outside the tar paper. And then all the other cuts, I want my knife, I want a beveled cut, so I want my knife at an angle, 45 angle. And the easy way to think about it is I want it, every cut, the knife to be at the same angle. So when I'm cutting under here, it's the same angle as when I'm cutting the opposite side. Straight for now, but I will bevel that before I add the bottom. Alright, now I'm gonna just get a little bit of water, a little slip on those edges and score them. Flip it. Okay, now I can fold this up. The tar paper will give this strength so that when I fold it up, it'll hold its shape, and also it's a barrier between my fingers and the clay, so it really protects the outer surface from being over touched. So now the goal is just to line up the tar paper. I want all those seams to the tar paper to touch in all those seams. So work my way around. So get it pretty close with my fingers, and then I'll grab a steel rib, and then I can put a lot of pressure on this tar paper and even tighten those seams up more. Just kind of supporting a little bit on the inside. Alright, so now I want this to be a little bit more defined where those edges are. Get a little more geometric here. That's it, just roughly together. So I'll let this sit out. Tar paper will allow it to dry really pretty even, and once it firms up some, I'll go over the edges again, and I'll clean up this lip just kind of by pinching. I usually wait to do this, but just so that there's a slight taper at this lip. Oh, I should say I wait to do this later because it'll get dinged up a bunch when I'm trying to work on these seams or add the foot or at the bottom of it. So there's that. I have other patterns that are more complicated than that. So this is kind of the same idea, six-sided, except for I don't want the walls to be straight at the top. I want them to taper back in. So this is pretty much the pattern of the one I showed earlier. Another technique is to do it in two parts. So this would be the bottom, fold it up, and then the top. So I've got this one here. So after they firm up a little bit more, attach the score really good. Attach that. Still have to work this top lip and add that. So when I started yesterday, added the foot and it's a little soft. It could be a little harder before I take the star paper off, but I'll just do it for demonstrations purposes. I'm gonna gently get this off. The tar paper will rip, especially in the kind of center, and we'll just try to prevent that. I'll let that firm up before I finish off that foot, but you can use this technique for lots of different things. This is a four-sided vase where I just worked off of a drawing and then blew it up. So it's got a curve here in the center so that when I assemble it, it'll have a little more volume. Something like that. What else? Bowl, same thing. This is all separate pieces too, cut up and assembled. So lots of different things you can construct with this technique. All right.